Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode I thought it might be interesting to have a look at this Austin A40. Hello and welcome back. If you're new to Quarterlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, and quite often we go beyond those parameters as well. So if you're interested in cars and car brochures, please consider subscribing. It is all completely free. Anyway, back to today's episode. We're going to be looking at this interesting brochure for an Austin A40. I think the easiest thing to do is just throw it on the board and let's have a little bit of a chat about it. So here is today's brochure. What a nice bright coloured brochure it is. The Austin A40, the gayest economy sedan ever. Obviously a tagline from a much simpler time. Now in the UK we would have all known this as the A40 Farina, but it seems like in America it was just known as the A40. A car with kind of like a long lifespan really. It ran all the way from 1958 to 1967 in a few different guises, of course. These would have been the Mark I that we're looking at today. Ran from 1958 to 1961, and indeed this brochure is dated 1960, so that all ties in, and I kind of like looked at the wheelbase just to make sure that it was a Mark I, because it kind of like grew as a Mark II, but certainly the wheelbase as well is confirming that this is a Mark I version. Farina design, Pininfarina. I always like see that straight away when we can see some sort of evidence of a fin on there, but an attractive looking little car. Now this brochure, like I say, is from the US. I've got a few issues with this brochure and I'll talk to you that in a minute, but let's just zoom in a little bit further on the front cover first. So lovely little design, really bright. Obviously they must have coloured this in to get it as bright as this. It really stands out, this red colour, white wool tyres. I always like the designs of these, they always look very nice. Like I said, this is 1960 brochure, so I guess it just fits in with our theme of 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, although I say that we do look at 50s cars as well because I like them just as much as the 60s cars, but you know, in general we tend to look at 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, so this just fits in with that theme. And like I say, a very unusual tagline for the time. The gayest economy sedan ever, but of course much simpler times that wouldn't have the same sort of meaning as today. Now just looking at the brochure itself, incredible condition for 1960. Like I said, this is supposed to be a 1960s brochure. I have my doubts, so I'm not 100% convinced this is a genuine brochure. It almost looks like a reprint to me. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to have another Austin A40 brochure side by side to be 100% sure, because this is an American brochure. If it was a UK brochure I could spot the fake straight away. The American brochures I struggle a little bit more because the American brochures used unusual paper anyway that I'm not really familiar with. I've said on a previous video, if I'd had a North American brochure and a UK or European brochure blindfolded, I could tell you which was the American brochure, but that's kind of like as far as it goes in spotting a fake. If I had to put money on, I would say this is not a genuine 1960s brochure. I think it's a reprint, and I think it's a reprint for a few reasons. A, the tagline, the gayest economy sedan ever, was the correct tagline. I'm not saying anything against that at all, but I think because it's got more than one meaning today, I've got a feeling people may be more inclined to make copies of this. A, for amusing value, maybe for, you know, whatever reason, hanging up on your wall, bit of a talking point. So I kind of feeling that would be one clue that this might be something that people would actually copy. But the main thing is there doesn't seem to be any wear, and there are some marks on it, but they look like modern marks. I'll show you this. So yeah, in the corners we do get a little bit of creasing at the top corner there, and even a tiny little tear, but a tear that really doesn't show any age to it at all. So that's a little bit funny. The paper quality is weird, but then, like I say, I struggle with that for American brochures because it is a different quality anyway, but it's kind of like I don't know if they was using this type of paper actually in 1960 in America. I'm not 100% sure. That's why I would need the genuine copy to touch to make sure. But it's a hard one to describe on camera without you actually coming here and actually touching the brochure. But like I said, no genuine wear. The corners generally look quite fresh. There is a little bit of a few little marks on it, but it's like bright marks, like it's very modern wear on it. And I'll just show you one of my genuine older brochures. This is actually from 56 or even older. And you could tell straight away this is a genuine one. Look at this sort of oil mark coming down here, where it's almost like been poking out of a folder, or someone's been taking it out, but it's been stored in the brochures, and you turn it the opposite way around and it's just genuine age. Some people devalue these, they've got this sort of wear on it, but to me, I would always pick a brochure like this over a brochure like this, which looks far too fresh to say it's from 1960. I'll just turn the brochure over. Look how bright that is. No marks on here whatsoever. I'll zoom in on the date. 260, so February 1960. You can see there's an American brochure, which, you know, makes sense. And like I say, in the US they just call them the A40. That's all good, but I don't know, I get a bad feeling about it. And this is just a brochure that I actually picked up online, so I didn't have any clue whether it's genuine or not. You do go by the seller saying it's a genuine brochure, but like I say, I have my doubts, but it's still in my collection. It's something I'll still keep, something I still treasure, because, you know, the information on there is still genuine information. But like I say, if I ever come across another one, I might just purchase it just to compare it to this one. Anyway, the channel isn't just about brochures and collecting brochures, it is all about memories and these older cars. So let's continue having a look at this brochure for the Austin A40. So we'll open it up. Let's have a read how they described it in 1960. So here it is. We open the brochure up, and yeah, it looks as fresh as the day it was produced. We'll look at these images though, and we'll have a look at some of these text and see how it was kind of like shown in the US. So it starts by telling us, no doubt about it, the new Austin A40 will fit into your way of life like nothing else on wheels. For here, the classic continental styling of Italy's famed Pininfarina is combined with advanced BMC engineering in the happiest of marriages of good looks and good sense. A40. The spacious interior of the A40 is as smartly fitted as it is uncluttered. Front seats are individually adjustable and tilt forward for easy access to the rear. Headroom and legroom is more than generous both front and rear. Picture window visibility is yours all round. And there is rather a nice little peek into the interior of the A40, and it doesn't look really nice. I do love the door cards and that sort of design on them. The dash looks absolutely beautiful. Moving on, it tells us large by any standards, the luggage compartment of the A40 easily handles the luggage of the average family. With only 2 travellers, it can be tripled by simply folding the back of the rear seat. The sports-tuned power plant of the A40 is an advanced version of the time-proved BMC A-series engine. Its efficiency is such that it delivers better than 40 miles per gallon and permits you to cruise in the 60s. Obviously, the gallon is different in the US to UK, right? So that's probably going to be a little bit off. But anyway, interesting, isn't it? Kind of advanced for the time, you know, that sort of like design with a hatch and folding down the rear seats. I quite approve of that. And certainly by any standards the mile per gallon is going to be fantastic, particularly in the US with those huge gas guzzling vehicles in the 60s. And what about parts and service? Of course this is a foreign car, isn't it? So always that fear about a foreign car and getting parts and service. It says 3 basic engines power the BMC cars sold in America. Components are interchangeable. Coast-to-coast warehouse parts inventory exceeds by far that of any other imported manufacturer. Service by mechanics trained by factory engineers in the very latest techniques. Is available at more than 1,000 dealers in North America, and every BMC car is backed by a full 12 months factory warranty. And then we get a couple of images of the car itself in black and white, although you can certainly make out the roof colour is different to the main body. No white walls on this version either. And then a look at the front end and that sort of unusual grille. Looking a little bit Peugeot, I must admit, on the front, I think. And then the specifications. So let's have a look what this car had to offer. So the engine was an inline 4-cylinder OHV, free bearing counterbalanced crankshaft, and it looks like it's got a capacity of 57.82 cubic inches or 948 cc. Maximum bhp 38.5 at 5,000 rpm. Fuel system Zenith downdraft carburetor. AC mechanical pump, oil bath air cleaner, tank capacity 7.25 US gallons. And then it mentions the lubrication system, the ignition system, the cooling system, the clutch, and then the gearbox. So it's a 4-speed, not fully synchromesh. It's a synchromesh on second, third and top, but you would expect that in the early 60s for such a small little base model car. It then tells us about the propeller shaft, rear axle, overall gear ratios, road speeds at 1000 rpm, which was always an unusual thing, but much more technical, the 60s brochures of course. Steering, suspension was front independent with wishbones and coil springs, rear semi-elliptical rubber bushed leaf springs, lever type hydraulic shock absorbers front and rear. So it certainly wasn't a cutting edge car by any stretch of the imagination. The brakes tells us foot pendant pedal operating 2 leading shoe hydraulics on the front, hydromechanical on rear, hand centre pull-up type operating on rear wheels through compensator, and then some dimensions. The road wheels 13-inch, electricals 12 volts on this example. So instruments, single instrument cluster includes speedometer with total mileage recorder, fuel gauge, warning lights to indicate no generator charge, low oil pressure and headlight high beam position, and flashing warning lights to show indicators working, concealed instrument illumination. So, you know, it had just what it needed really. Then we get a long sort of list of sort of bodywork, which I'm not going to talk through all of that, but hopefully if I move it in you can actually read it if you do want to read the full text, and I'll move down now if you want to pause the video. And then there is the rest of the text for the bodywork, and then it takes us down to the colours. So even though they're not calling it the A40 Farina in the US, they're still having a colour called the Farina Grey with red or blue or tan trims, tartan red with black trim, horizon blue with blue trim, Sutherland green with grey trim, ocean blue with grey trim, black with red or blue or grey or tan trim. So nice offering, and indeed if we go to one side, there are our colours, which is rather nice to see on a brochure. Also tell us also available in black, but you know, we're not going to bother putting the black on there. We all know what black is, I guess they was probably thinking. There is also performance actually. Our performance data, top speed of 72.2 miles per hour, 0 to 60 in pretty sedate 27.5 seconds, but for 1960 I think top speed of 72 for such a small car with a small engine is pretty good, although I'm not sure you would really want to be doing that sort of speeds in it. It's even got the standing quarter mile in 23.9 seconds, gas consumption 40 miles per gallon, overseas delivery information on request. And then, as we saw at the bottom, this rather lovely rosette there, the British Motoring Corporation, or BMC, products of the British Motoring Corporation Limited, makers of Austin Healey, Austin MG Magneta, Morris and Riley cars. And then it's presented in the represented in the US by Hambro Automotive Corp. That's in New York. And like we said at the start, our date there is 260 or February 1960. So there we got a little Austin A40 Farina. What a lovely little car, but I always loved Pininfarina designs anyway. Let me know in the comments what you think of this car. Any memories of this, or maybe you actually still own one now, but I think they're a lovely little car. And overall, thank you so much for watching today. Do appreciate it. If you're not done already, please consider subscribing. It is all completely free. And I'll add at the end here a last little look at the brochure, and a couple of boxes are going to pop up, and therefore other videos that we've already done. Close to 500 videos we've actually produced here on Quartzlite, so I'm sure there's a car that will interest you somewhere along there, or indeed several. Certainly I always love looking at all the cars and cars gone by, particularly as they kind of like spark sort of like memories, and that's, for me, that's more than anything, it's all about the memories of the cars themselves. But thank you so much for watching today. Please do enjoy the rest of your day and come back soon. So take care and goodbye.